sections that we're reading in chapters 15 through 18 are very much about application of the present moment to your life, and in such a way, a simple, universal way that can occur every day of your life if you're open to that, if you're looking miracle minded for that. So I really am so glad that we're able to be here and share this. For the material is really so inspiring. Uh, I've never seen anything like this in any other writings anywhere. So we are going to be talking about the Holy Spirit's use of time, specifically in terms of the experience of the holy instant, which will always be in the present moment. That's where it happens. And the whole chapter 15 will broadly be about application of the holy instant to the present moment. So we'll kick it off with section 1 on the two uses of time. You could probably guess it's the ego's use of time and the Holy Spirit's use of time. And that'll be our foundation for as we go on to, we'll first talk about the ego's use of time, and then we'll bridge out of there and focus on the real core of the matter of how the Holy Spirit uses time. So hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Julie. There is a number of passages about time that I would bring your attention to. Time is your friend if you leave it to the Holy Spirit to use, who transcends time for you, understands what time is for. Now, get this, holiness lies not in time, but in eternity. And so the holy instant is your gateway from time to eternity. With that, we'll get our reading started.
Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely to be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Yet that is what time is for, to learn just that and nothing more. God's teacher cannot be satisfied with his teaching until it constitutes all your learning. He has not fulfilled his teaching function until you have become such a consistent learner that you learn only of him. When this has happened, you will no longer need a teacher or time in which to learn.
So God's teacher, of course, is the Holy Spirit. We are making the point here that the Holy Spirit has a special use for time. She would ask us to use our time in the manner that she guides us. And that's going to require that we learn anew. We unlearn the way we have used time in the past and learn a new way. It's available to you at all times, but it's very different. As we've read in the course before, the Holy Spirit's gifts are not difficult, but they're very different than what we had learned from this world. And the Holy Spirit will not quit on us until we fully learn this lesson. And then when that has happened, you will no longer need a teacher. You will no longer need time in order to learn. So we're looking to what I would call a qualitative transition in how you experience your moments.
One source of perceived discouragement from which you may suffer is your belief that this takes time and that the results of the Holy Spirit's teaching are far in the future. This is not so, for the Holy Spirit uses time in His own way and is not bound by it. Time is His friend in teaching. It does not waste Him as it does you. And all the waste that time seems to bring with it is due but to your identification with the ego, which uses time to support its belief in destruction. The ego, like the Holy Spirit, uses time to convince you of the inevitability of the goal and end of teaching. To the ego, the goal is death, which is its end. But to the Holy Spirit, the goal is life, which has no end. The ego is an ally of time, but not a friend, for it is as mistrustful of death as it is of life, and what it wants for you, it cannot tolerate. The ego wants you dead, but not itself. The outcome of its strange religion must therefore be the conviction that it can pursue you beyond the grave. And out of its unwillingness for you to find peace even in death, it offers you immortality in hell. It speaks to you of heaven, but assures you that heaven is not for you. How can the guilty hope for heaven?
So we're going to find ways that we can simplify what it's saying here. And the ego would have you waste your time. That is to be stuck, imprisoned, barred from your hopes of your happiness, and keep you cycling back into the past, preoccupied with guilt, and eventually becoming discouraged. One source of your perceived discouragement, becoming discouraged and feeling like you're not making any progress. And so there's no hope for progress. This is all part of the ego's religion. So we'll just think of it as wasting your time. And it is true that when you mistakenly think of yourself as an ego, you will miss all the opportunities to use time in the manner that the Holy Spirit would guide. So here's a few takeaways. The ego is an ally of time, but not a friend. Later on, we'll realize that the ego wants to use time, but to use it as a weapon against you so that you would waste your time. And the other, which I think is a famous line, what is the ego's real motivation in this entire masquerade of pretending to be you? Is the ego wants you dead so that it can prove that it was right, that you are not immortal, that you are not the eternal Son of God. It wants, and it believes that by your biological death, it can show evidence that it was right. A strange religion that leads to a belief in lack of hope and a belief in hell.
Hey, Jonica,
Yeah, David.
I just want to comment on that because that's one of my favorite lines from the entire text.
Which one?
The ego wants you dead, but not itself. All right?
Why?
Because the ego says, I'm going to live on beyond you, right? It makes a distinction that it is not you. All right? It lets you know that. Wants you dead, not itself. And because it thinks it is a God of it unto itself.
Very good. It does want to be your God. Very much so. Thank you, David. It's interesting that that really caught your attention as well. We'll go on.
The belief in hell is inescapable to those who identify with the ego. Their nightmares and their fears are all associated with it. The ego teaches that hell is in the future, for this is what all its teaching is directed to. Hell is its goal. For although the ego aims at death and dissolution as an end, it does not believe it. The goal of death, which it craves for you, leaves it unsatisfied. No one who follows the ego's teaching is without the fear of death. Yet if death were thought of merely as an end to pain, would it be feared? We have seen this strange paradox in the ego's thought system before, but never so clearly as here. For the ego must seem to keep fear from you to hold your allegiance. Yet it must engender fear in order to maintain itself. Again, the ego tries, and all too frequently succeeds, in doing both, by using dissociation for holding its contradictory aims together so that they seem to be reconciled. The ego teaches thus: death is the end as far as hope of heaven goes. Yet because you and the ego cannot be separated, and because it cannot conceive of its own death, it will pursue you still, because guilt is eternal. Such is the ego's version of immortality. And it is this ego's version, and it is this the ego's version of time supports.
So yes, there's a lot there, and I don't really care to explore it other than to point out to you something that's a foreshadow of a topic that we'll take up in chapter 19. And it says, no one who follows the ego's teaching is without the fear of death. For in other words, stated in the positive senses, the fear of death becomes a major barrier for the ego in the ego's teachings. It's the belief that it'll be the end of you, that you will cease to exist. So that's like an existential fear that your very identity will be wiped out forever. These are pretty bold claims. And how would the ego know? But yet, it doesn't matter if it's right or not. The thing that the ego is preoccupied with is that you remain perpetually afraid of death, and then it can utilize its manipulate time to keep you perpetually aware that the end of your biological existence is this finite. The way it would teach would be your final day of existence. And so it's very bleak, very lacking in hope. In fact, it's a type of hell.
The ego teaches that heaven is here and now because the future is hell. Even when it attacks so savagely that it tries to take the life of someone who thinks its is the only voice, it speaks of hell even to him. For it tells him hell is here as well, and bids him leap from hell into oblivion. The only time the ego allows anyone to look upon with equanimity is the past. And even there, its only value is that it is no more. How bleak and despairing is the ego's use of time,
That's true.
and how terrifying. For underneath its fanatical insistence that the past and future be the same is hidden a far more insidious threat to peace. The ego does not advertise its final threat, for it would have its worshippers still believe that it can offer them escape. But the belief in guilt must lead to the belief in hell, and always does. The only way in which the ego allows the fear of hell to be experienced is to bring hell here, but always as a foretaste of the future. For no one who considers himself as deserving of hell can believe that punishment will end in peace.
So point out two patterns here is in the ego's teaching, there is frequently a frontal teaching or a frontal idea that it'll bring your attention to. But there is also a deeper hidden belief that it would try for you never to recognize, never suspect, because you keep yourself totally preoccupied with what's up front. Magicians do this sometimes in that they have one hand sitting down by their side. You're not supposed to be looking at that. And they'll wave the other hand out in front so that they get your attention there. So the ego uses that kind. And so the belief is the fear of death is the major one that you're confronted with. And then there is a final threat that it does not advertise, and that's a belief that you will remain in hell. Torture, punishment, pain, suffering forever. It's a fear of hell. Gosh, when I was 6 years old, nobody taught me. I think I learned it from kids on the street corner. I believed in hell. And that, it's just weird how these ideas are just in the culture. Maybe it wasn't in yours, but somehow it showed up in mine. And it wasn't like a formal teaching. I didn't get it in any kind of religious setting. I just acquired an understanding of that. And I remember because I had stolen some candy, thinking that I was going to be sentenced to hell. So these are fears. Now, each of us experiences as in our own way and our own experience, but I'm just saying these are not just theoretical here. These are things that actually happen to people. David? You're muted.
Okay. Can you just help me dissect a couple of things?
Yeah. Right.
The ego teaches that heaven is here and now. Well, my understanding is that heaven is here and now is a truthful statement.
So, an interpretation, I'm going to interpret David.
Okay, but then
the ego would teach that your life with the ego is the only heaven you'll ever get. In other words, your identity with the ego is the best that you will ever see in your short existence. That would be one way of interpreting it. I don't know if that's right.
Well, Steve,
I'm not trying to understand.
No, I just don't understand that because, my understanding of time,
yes,
all right, is that there is only the present moment.
Yes.
So if there is heaven, it is here and now.
Yes, but it's not in time.
Right.
We would say
but here and now is not in time either. Correct.
And the ego doesn't have any access to that.
And so by saying that the future is hell, well, Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? I mean, if you put yourself into the future, you're no longer in heaven. Any any projection into the future takes you out of heaven because there is only the holding instant.
Correct.
I mean, I know this sounds intellectual and stuff, but I'm trying to really be understand this.
Yeah. So it gets really good in the second half of this. My hope was to breeze through this first half here.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, because the real message starts in the next paragraph.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. I didn't. I could have forewarned you, but I didn't. So, Julie, what does the Holy Spirit teach?
The Holy Spirit teaches thus: there is no hell. Hell is only what the ego has made of the present. The belief in hell is what prevents you from understanding the present because you are afraid of it. The Holy Spirit leads as steadily to heaven as the ego drives to hell. For the Holy Spirit, who knows only the present, uses it to undo the fear by which the ego would make the present useless. There is no escape from fear in the ego's use of time. For time, according to its teaching, is nothing but a teaching device for compounding guilt until it becomes all encompassing, demanding vengeance forever.
So, there is no hope for happiness in the ego's teaching, but the whole, and this is both a truth and a fact. There is no hell, but there is certainly a belief in hell. And do people not suffer from the fear of death and the belief that their souls will be condemned? Um, Hundreds of years ago, people used to pay big money to the church to try to get their family members out of purgatory. The belief was so strong there. So there was never, in truth, a hell, but there is certainly a fear and a belief of it. And you can be sure any belief that's used to make you afraid is a weapon in the hands of the ego. Doesn't mean it has a reality, just means that it would be weaponized. That belief would be weaponized against you. And so our goal here, which begins really taken up in the next paragraph, is what does the transition out of this matrix, fearful matrix of the ego look like? And how do we access it and apply it in our own lives? And this is the beginning of the chapter. So we're introducing the concept here, and then we're going to explore specific applications for it as we go on throughout the chapter.
The Holy Spirit would undo all of this now. Fear is not of the present, but only of the past and future, which do not exist. There is no fear in the present when each instant stands clear and separated from the past, without its shadow reaching out into the future. Each instant is a clean, untarnished birth, in which the Son of God emerges from the past into the present. And the present extends forever. It is so beautiful and so clean and so free of guilt that nothing but happiness is there. No darkness is remembered, and immortality and joy are now. This lesson takes no time. For what is time without a past and a future? It has taken time to misguide you so completely, but it takes no time at all to be what you are. Begin to practice the Holy Spirit's use of time as a teaching aid to happiness and peace. Take this very instant, now, and think of it as all there is of time. Nothing can reach you here out of the past, and it is here that you are completely absolved, completely free, and wholly without condemnation. From this holy instant, wherein holiness was born again, you will go forth in time without fear, and with no sense of change with time.
Mhm. So he's introducing this idea of the holy instant. It's not to say that we all master it today, if this is your first introduction to it, but this is the beginning of a learning journey. We are encouraged to begin to practice this holy instant as a way, as a teaching aid. It is a journey in learning that leads to freedom and happiness. It's equivalent to taking a moment for yourself. I'm sure all of us have had situations in our lives where the chaos of the moment became so overwhelming that we just needed to take a break from it for a moment, so to speak, to catch our breath, calm down, and try to regain a sense of balance and equanimity, a sense of poise. Well, those would be some ways of describing the holy instant, but it's more than that. But it has those kind of attributes. It's an think of it as there is a place within you of inner quiet, even when the external environment is very chaotic. And the holy instant is a way of remembering, of recognizing that place of heavenly quiet, heavenly stillness. And with it comes something very grandiose. It's a memory of more than just the quiet. It's a memory of the entirety of the plan of atonement. It's what we call release from being a prisoner of time to where you recognize you are not defined by time. You are not defined by the chaos. You're not defined by the fears, nor of the guilt, nor even of the self-definition that may have been present moments before that. And so it's a learning aid. You have to learn to do this, to step aside from the chaos, which oftentimes is occurring in your own mind. So I'll refer to it as chaos of the world, but you can just as easily be sitting in a chair by yourself and experience chaos. We mean chaos in whatever way it shows up. And then typically what happens is I will get caught up in that for a moment because it's very dramatic, as we know. It's got emotions and thousands of thoughts. And then I'll realize that I didn't come here for this. I didn't come here to suffer this kind of pain, and that I have another choice available to me. And that's when I have enough sense to choose again, to step aside from the chaos into the present moment, into the holy instant. And so it begins with your recognition this need not be. You need not be in chaos. You need not experience the traumas that go on in the ego's world, and that you can choose again. So your willpower has to engage. I don't want this for myself. I want something else. And the transition from there into a state of peace is what the Holy Spirit is here to teach us. Not because you're clever or you possess all the know-how, but because the Holy Spirit knows how to help guide us out of chaos and into the holy instant. Um, and part of it will, and this is hard to explain, but part of it will be to see yourself not as a victim in time, as not being a part of the guilt and the fear that the timeline would seem to have made for you. We just read all those paragraphs about how the ego is dead set on you being all wrapped up in the fear of death and the fear of hell. That's its view of time. Well, in order to experience this holy instant, you have to be willing to undo that, to step outside of that, to let it go. And that's your part, is to be willing to let it go. And then once you've let it go, the Holy Spirit always has a gift for you to give in its place. Susie?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that, the reading that we did yesterday, about our past learning
Yeah.
and all of that, I was praying on so much of that last night and this morning, and to help me unlearn, or not believe in my past learning and what I've taught myself, what Susie has taught me, and so I can experience more of the present moment and holy instant. And, to be perfectly honest, frank, whatever, it's, what's the word? I'm not going to say it's hard, because I don't think it's hard. I think it's, it's challenging to, I believe everything. I believe so much. I believe most of everything I've learned is not true, or is not of the Holy Spirit, or is not of God. It's just a matter of me over and over and over again recognizing it, like you're saying, and asking for help, and then knowing it's not real. But it's been decades, so I'm grateful for all of this, and it's so interesting that it comes after everything that we've taught ourselves, how much we need to unlearn. So that's all. I don't know. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Yes, a big part of this program is undoing the habits of the past. And by habits, I mean the habits of emotional response and mental response, the self definitions, as Susie said, decades of practicing your responses to the world under ego guidance, letting all that go. But once we've done our part, we can be sure that the Holy Spirit has her solution ready. The lesson the Holy Spirit would offer us takes no time. It's not measured, the learning is not measured by time, it is measured by willingness. Julie?
Time is inconceivable without change, yet holiness does not change. Learn from this instant more than merely that hell does not exist. In this redeeming instant lies heaven, and heaven will not change, for the birth into the holy present is salvation from change. Change is an illusion taught by those who cannot see themselves as guiltless. There is no change in heaven because there is no change in God. In the holy instant in which you see yourself as bright with freedom, you will remember God, for remembering Him is to remember freedom.
So if you're taking notes, or however your process walks, one of the foundation stones for accessing the holy instant will be that it is constant, that it is changeless, that no matter what your day, week, month, encounter, situation looks like, we know in time those things fluctuate enormously. But the gift of a glimpse of heaven, the holy instant, is on an eternal foundation that is complete and whole. It's holy and has no room for improvement, so it does not change. And so just know that it's steady, reliable. I would encourage you to think of it as home. It's your safe place. It's your go-to. No matter what else is going on, it's there for you as your go-to. And we read in the previous section at the end of chapter 14 that just as God's identity never changes, the Creator doesn't decide this Creator identity is not working for me anymore, I'm going to come up with another one. No, it's changeless. Well, the Creator imparted that property to each of us in our spiritual identity, which is changeless. Your true essence, your being, your eternal nature is changeless. So when you identify with the holy instant, you are recognizing that which is stable and changeless and safe, reliable. It is knowable because it does not change. And so even though that may be a bit abstract, just record that in your fact sheets of the holy instant. Is it the property of changelessness along with the changelessness of your identity? Later on, when you become more familiar with being able to access the holy instant at will, that property of changelessness will make it easy for you to return to. Because you're not looking for something new. You're not looking for a solution that is special. It has to be specially designed for the particular problems of today. You're looking for a solution that exists forever for all things. And so it's a lot easier to find than a custom solution that fixes or addresses the uniqueness of the situation you may find yourself in on any given day. Heather?
Yeah, I love this discussion because it gives me such the word is stability.
Yes.
That change, the opposite of change is stability, and I just love the whole idea that this gives us stability in the midst of everything changing. So it's something we can put our trust and rest in.
Yes. Yeah, this is your rock. This is our rock. This is our foundation. This is our go-to. Um, I don't know, it's a crude analogy, but they now have these things called a safe house or safe room. I'm sorry, safe room in a house. Like the children might go to if there's, fears or whatever, a storm, whatever it might be, a room that everybody, the whole family goes to, safe room. Well, this is your home, your safe room spiritually is the holy instant. Okay.
If you are tempted to be dispirited by thinking how long it would take to change your mind so completely, ask yourself, how long is an instant? Could you not give so short a time to the Holy Spirit for your salvation? He asks no more, for he has no need of more. It takes far longer to teach you to be willing to give him this than for him to use this tiny instant to offer you the whole of heaven. In exchange for this instant, he stands ready to give you the remembrance of eternity. You will never give this holy instant to the Holy Spirit on behalf of your release while you are unwilling to give it to your brothers on behalf of theirs. For the instant of holiness is shared and cannot be yours alone. Remember then, when you are tempted to attack a brother, that his instant of release is yours. Miracles are the instance of release you offer and will receive. They attest to your willingness to be released and to offer time to the Holy Spirit for his use of it.
Okay, so now we're really getting into what's entailed here. First of all, it is true that the ego will try to discourage you and have you think that it's going to take an entire life for you to learn how to find the holy instant. What the Course teaches is what takes time is for you to be willing to give the Holy Spirit the moment for you to start utilizing to begin to practice the holy instant as your go-to. That takes time for you to turn consistently towards Holy Spirit guidance in those moments. But once you turn, the Holy Spirit is there instantly ready. It takes no time at all. So, now let's look at the properties or the conditions of your being able to experience the holy instant, because you don't experience it by yourself. You experience it in terms of relationships. It's beyond it. There's this saying in the song, when I reach the end of myself, you have to reach the end of your own ego ingenious approaches and give up on them and turn to the Holy Spirit. This is kind of like the gift of desperation, somewhat like that. And you turn to the Holy Spirit for the solution. In order to be able to experience this, you have to be willing to give all to all. You have to be willing to give it to your brothers on behalf of their release. Now, we're talking about your release. We're talking about your release from guilt, your release from the prison of time and the whole matrix of the ego, being able to step outside of that. And in order to experience that for yourself, you have to be willing to give it to your brothers. Well, the ego would say, who are you to give such a gift to your brothers? Well, again, practice, and you'll find after a few awkward attempts that it's actually very easy to give this gift to your brothers. Now you might then ask, how does one give this gift? Well, how does one offer a blessing? How does one recognize the light in another person? How does one forgive your brothers? The same way you do it through your own choice to be forgiving, to give a blessing. Sometimes words are involved, but other times not. Sometimes the person is nearby physically, but other times not. It all is occurring within your own domain of how you use your mind and your will. So the instant of holiness is shared. That's the doorway through which you enter in. It cannot be yours alone. Nothing could be more clear. It's always in terms of your willingness to have it. You must be willing to give it. And the trigger that will arise within you in the next 48 hours, I expect, will be an impulse when you are attempted to attack a brother. In that instant of release, that you choose not to and choose forgiveness instead, that instant of release is your instant of release. Can you see how by choosing not to attack, but by choosing to forgive, you are released from guilt? You are no longer a purveyor of guilt, but instead are a promoter of forgiveness. So miracles become these instants of release that you offer, and in offering it, you will receive. To have, give all, to all. That's the way you receive. And all of this is premised on your willingness to your desire to heal yourself and thus to also function as a healer to help others to heal. This is your gift to offer time to the Holy Spirit so that it can be, that moment can be used for healing, for release from guilt. Lauren, was that your hand up or was it just set? Yeah, okay. All right, any questions on that? I think it's fairly straightforward, but it does require practice. Susie?
I just want to share something really quickly about, because it ties into what I said before about past learning. I had an incident today where, like, I normally might get agitated, right? You know, and I was able to pause and say, that's an attack. That's not of the Holy Spirit. And I just took that divine pause. And I didn't react, and it, you know, it was completely different than it would have been. And it's exactly this, you know, I have to give it to my brother. And when I did give it to my brother, I received the peace and the calm in exchange. You know, we both did. And I could have blown it up with my ego. So, you know, based on my past habits and learning. So, you know, it really does work if we're willing to do it.
Yes. Thank you, Susie. This is a course in practical application, not in theory. We teach the theory to motivate, well, why am I doing these things that are so different than everything I've ever learned in the world? Well, there is a foundation for why, but the real learning is in your own experience. Like Susie just shared, even when you are tempted to attack a brother, That's the call right there. That's the moment where a difference can be made, because both of you can experience forgiveness, a release from guilt, instead of entering into a cyclone of guilt. How long does that take, Julie?
How long is an instant? It is as short for your brother as it is for you. Practice giving this blessed instant of freedom to all who are enslaved by time, and thus make time their friend for them. The Holy Spirit gives their blessed instant to you through your giving it. As you give it, He offers it to you. Be not unwilling to give what you would receive of Him, for you join with Him in giving. And the crystal cleanness of the release you give is your instantaneous escape from guilt. You must be holy if you offer holiness. How long is an instant? As long as it takes to reestablish perfect sanity, perfect peace, and perfect love for everyone, for God, and for yourself. As long as it takes to remember immortality and your immortal creations who share it with you. As long as it takes to exchange hell for heaven. Long enough to transcend all of the ego's making and ascend unto your Father.
Mm-hmm. And there it is. There we have it. Out with the old, in with the new. It is, never doubt, it is a release from guilt and all that the religion of guilt implies: the fear of death, the fear of hell, the miscreations of the mind, the despair, the attacking of, the whole thought system of the ego being released in an instant, not in years of meditation to experience this, but in an instant, not because your mighty abilities, but because of your willingness to let go of holding the old school, the old habits of guilt in your mind. And in with the new, it reestablishes sanity, peace, and love, but not only between you and the other that is on your mind, but it's establishes, I call it the entire package. It's a love for everyone, for God, and for yourself. To step outside of the fear of death and guilt is to step in to another domain, which we would call heaven. It's an instant of heaven, an exchange of hell for heaven, which transcends and leaves. Now, we're not talking about this being a permanent state yet. We are talking about this as a momentary experience for which you can have repeated experiences of again and again. But we are, at least for the moment, referring to this as a momentary experience. Later on, we'll get to it becoming permanent.
Time is your friend if you leave it to the Holy Spirit to use. He needs but very little to restore God's whole power to you. He who transcends time for you understands what time is for. Holiness lies not in time, but in eternity. There never was an instant in which God's Son could lose his purity. His changeless state is beyond time, for his purity remains forever beyond attack and without variability. Time stands still in his holiness. and changes not. And so it is no longer time at all. For caught in the single instant of the eternal sanctity of God's creation, it is transformed into forever. Give the eternal instant, that eternity may be remembered for you in that shining instant of perfect release. Offer the miracle of the holy instant through the Holy Spirit and leave his giving it to you to him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so now here's where we have, at least for this session, our last, when it's our last key point, but I mean, in the context of today's session, where do we find this experience? Not in our narration of time. Oh, my life has been, I was born in the United States and raised here, and then I moved over here, and now I'm doing this. It's not in that time narrative, whatever that might be. It's in the eternity narrative, which transcends all that time narrative. It's not about your story. And so that completes at least the notes that I took. The three notes that we know about the holy instant is one, it's changeless. It's what we call, it's still and safe and calm and quiet. It's home. It's secure. Two, it is experienced not by yourself, but in sharing. By your giving it to others, you are able to receive it from the Holy Spirit. If you withhold it, it blocks you from experiencing it. You have to be willing to give it to others. And then three, our point here, it's not experienced along the narration that is the constant talk of. The only thing the ego knows is the time narration, particularly over focused on the past and then thinking or wanting you to believe that the future will look largely like the past. That whole narration there, that's not where we find the holy instant. We find it along a different trajectory, one that includes everyone and everything. So, everyone and everything and forever are the three properties. Everywhere, everyone, everything, and forever. So, not like time and space. It includes the entire creation. So, it is, think of it, this is our last point here. Think of it as something that you can give, that you have it to give. You have, where did we read it? I think just a moment ago about giving. It's about your willingness to give something that you didn't even know you had. You give a holy instant, so it's the thing that will take the most time to learn is to acquire a new habit wherein you think in terms of giving the holy instant. And if that's too much of a stretch, let me suggest the starting point is that you begin practicing on a daily basis, giving gratitude for life, for forgiveness, for healing, for creation. And in that giving, then you learn the transition, next step, into giving a blessing to others. So when you think of others or you encounter others to yourself, you bless them. And that's not very far from your giving a holy instant of release, which is you are representing a guiltless mind, a mind that has learned to forgive and is practicing innocence, practicing guiltlessness, and you're sharing that as a moment of perfect release with another. This is where all miracles emerge out of this foundation. So we didn't emphasize this before, but miracles don't happen outside of the holy instant. They happen within the context of a holy instant. Miracles are the witnesses that you literally experience and are aware of that of a holy instant. So that's the introduction to the holy instant. And we'll repeat some of those ideas and say them in other ways, and we'll continue to look at it from many different angles so that it becomes more and more familiar. We're on a learning journey of something that obviously is very different than practicing guilt and judgment and fear. Very different than that. But it's not complex. It's actually very simple if you're willing to practice and keep at it until a new habit forms. And this becomes delightful to participate in it. It makes your day go better. So that's as far as we're going to go for today. Thank you all for your time and your attention to such lofty matters as the two uses of time and the holy instant. We'll pick up all of these topics again real soon. Thank you, Julie, for reading. Thank you all for your light that you carry. Namaste.
Thank you, Jonica. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. You're welcome.
Namaste.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody. Good night.
Julie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Rest well.